Hi everyone, and welcome to the Bureau of Freedom. My name is Sasha, and this is episode 11. Something a bit different this week. I realised looking back at previous episodes that I often say, if you've read as many self-help books as I have, with nothing to back that up. So it got me thinking, and I cracked open the Kindle and counted up how many self-help books I've read in the last 12 months. 29. In 1 year. That's one every 2 weeks. As an aside, one of the many anxious thoughts that often pop into my head is, am I reading enough? Well, I didn't just read self-help books in the last year, so I'm probably pushing a rate of 1 book a week. Not bad. Not world class, but I'll take it. Anyway, seeing the list sparked in my mind into trying to remember what each book was about, whether I remembered anything from any of them, and whether they were any good. So why just review them in my head when I can do it blog style? So I'm going to go through each of the 29 books and do a quick review. Some reviews will be quicker than others, as I don't remember reading some of these. Yay for alcohol and old age. Primed by Adam Hudson. A couple of weeks after I quit my job in Sydney so I could fly to the other side of the world to take care of my 95-year-old grandmother in the French Riviera, I was having trouble sleeping. Not uncommon for me. For years, I had it in my head that one way to make money online was to come up with a product idea, get it manufactured in China, and sell it online in the US. I don't remember where I learnt that. Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, maybe? What was keeping me awake was worrying about how exactly to go about getting something made in China. I had a product idea, but how the fuck do you contact Chinese manufacturers? What do you ask them to do? How do you know who to trust? What do you even make the nose out of? By the way, if anyone knows where that quote comes from, comment down below. I have totally forgotten and my Google foo is failing me. Red Dwarf maybe? Tossing and turning just wasn't giving me the answers I needed, so I did what I usually do when I can't sleep. I found an ASMR video on YouTube to listen to. Now, given that most ASMR videos are for relaxation, it's not super common that they feature ads in the middle of them. For whatever reason, this one did. Just as I was entering a happy state of relaxation, boom, an ad came on. Angrily, I picked up my iPad and hastily tried to click the skip this ad button. In the 5 seconds before it was available, I was tormented by some smug git with designer teeth calmly wandering down a Gold Coast beach asking me if I wanted to change my life or something. I hate shit like that, especially when it's interrupting my meditation, but for some reason that isn't clear to me, oh my god, the universe delivers lol, I kept watching. He explained that he had a course on how to sell products online using Amazon, and that if I wanted to know how to do it, including how to source and deal with Chinese suppliers, it was as simple as clicking a button, getting his free 4-part course, and so on. I was amazed. I knew Google was invasive, but it was reading my fucking thoughts now? Of course, I'd probably done some Google searches at some point around online selling while logged into my Gmail account, which is also my YouTube account, so probably not complete magic. Beyond that, I was intrigued. The smug git was an Aussie entrepreneur named Adam Hudson. I watched his free videos, I signed up for his course, I learnt the basics of selling on Amazon from him. There will be a future episode devoted to this topic. Prime was a book he wrote that is sort of the Cliff Notes version of the course. There's some excellent information, but the book is really designed to leave you wanting more, and what better way to get more than through Adam's course? Par for the course in this arena. Fortunately, his course and education company are great. More on that in the future, moving on. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book is one of the most well-known self-help books, and Robert Kiyosaki is one of the mythical legendary figures in this space. Part autobiography, part lecture on wealth education, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a must-read. It's well written and entertaining. It suffers from a problem that most of the books on this list have. At their very core, there's circular reasoning. Basically, the trick to being wealthy is to do things that will make you wealthy. What are those things? Well, the answer to that is usually either mysteriously glossed over or it depends. The thing is, these books market themselves as having the answers and or a formula for success. They don't. They do have a lot of great and practical information about what you should do, the behaviors you should cultivate, and how to think in the right way to achieve your goals, but there isn't a step-by-step guide to how to be successful. The Dip by Seth Godin. Great book. Everyone on earth should read it. All ventures, everything anyone has ever tried to achieve has gone through the same process. You start off with amazing enthusiasm, excited by all the success you're going to have and eager to get to work. Then that shit wears off and you hit the dip. Problems start appearing. Things start getting annoying. It's harder than you thought. It takes actual work. It becomes a grind. Most people don't make it out of the dip. They quit. They aren't willing to do the grind. But there is a silver lining to the dip. At the other end of the dip, when it's at its worst and things seem the hardest, you find success. The classic tale of the dude who bought some land thinking there were precious minerals somewhere on it. He spends years grinding away, digging up the dirt, not finding anything. He gives up and sells the land to someone else. They pick up where he left off and immediately find the minerals. The Dip. The idea, not the book, is horrible, but all entrepreneurs should love it. Why? Because most people will give up. The dip is a war of attrition. Those that stick with it, keep grinding, keep hustling, fight through the real gamer hours, will get to the other side and find that of the millions of people who started down that path, very few are left. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I remember that this is another famous self-help book. I don't remember much about it. Probably because it's got a bit too much woo-woo in it for my life. The Perfect Day Formula by Craig Ballantyne. I'm sure I picked up some useful tips from this one, but again, I remember nothing. The One Thing by Gary Keller. Another classic and well-deserved. This book is about breaking down large tasks or even small ones into what's important and forcing you to take action by choosing the one thing that is the first step to what you want to achieve and the most important. Step 1. Read The One Thing. Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. Not exactly a self-help book like the others, but an amazing non-fiction book about end of life and how we treat our elders and those who are dying. It's definitely a hard read at times, not because it's hard to read, it isn't, it's well written and entertaining. No, it's hard because of the real life stories of dying people. Elder care is a passion of mine, and everything Atul Gawande, who is a doctor who specialises in end-of-life care, suggests about how we need to act and the things we need to change as a society in regards to the dying is spot on. Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin and Joe Dominguez. Another classic that's just a blur in my head. I guess at this point they were all just merging into one another. The basic idea was that we need to stop selling our time and start selling our skills? The next two books were free downloads from some guru or another and not worth mentioning, except as part of the tally. Buddha's Diet by Tara Cottrell and Dan Zigmund. The diet book that worked for me. Not really a diet, just the idea that we should fast longer each day, only eat in a 9 to 10 hour window and certainly not before sleeping. There's a bit of Buddhist training in the book, but really it's more about people who lived before electricity and how they almost certainly didn't snack all day and night like we do. I think diets are extremely personal and not everything works for everyone, so I can't really recommend it, but it was great for me. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the autobiography of the dude who created Nike, who, by the way, didn't like the name when it was suggested to him, or the swoosh logo. But he trusted the people around him and the rest is history. It's super rare to read about an introverted leader and his story is certainly very different from many other super successful businessmen. Well worth a read. A Short Guide to a Long Life by David Agus. The memory's a little hazy on this one, but I think it was a series of things collated by a medical doctor from scientific literature that have the potential to increase your lifespan and decrease your chances of getting debilitating diseases. Things like intermittent fasting, taking statins, getting enough sleep, etc. The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. A book written a long time ago, retelling a story from a bazillion years ago. This was a weird one. Maybe the original self-help guide to becoming wealthy. Mind Frick by T. Harv Eker. Eker is a well-known self-help guru. This was one of his free ebooks. I remember nothing. I do get his emails every day now though. The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. More woo-woo. I'm sure I got plenty out of it, but at the end of the day, as I ranted about last week, I have a personal understanding about how the universe works, and often these woo-woo books seem painfully naive to me. That's a me problem, and shouldn't stop you from reading books like this. But yeah. The Dude and the Zen Master by Bernie Glassman. Bernie Glassman is a famous Hollywood Buddhist who is friends with the dude himself, Jeff Bridges. This book is the transcription of a series of conversations the two had about Buddhism and the Big Lebowski. Great read. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Another everyone should read book. Viktor Frankl survived the Auschwitz Nazi concentration camp. He developed a philosophy about humanity's need for meaning to help them through difficult times. Surprisingly, he doesn't attribute his survival to following his doctrine. It's not that kind of philosophy. He understands it was blind luck that meant he made it where millions of others didn't. He felt it was his responsibility to pass on what he had learnt about human resilience, hence this book. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Another classic, another case of practical information mixed in with healthy doses of woo-woo. Quiet by Susan Cain. If you're an introvert and haven't read Quiet, do so immediately. If you're an extrovert who feels they don't understand their introverted comrades, read Quiet immediately. It's the introvert Bible. Cain argues that the Western business world is set up to support extroverts only, and that a large number of skills, ideas, and thoughts that introverts are uniquely capable of supplying are being left on the table. Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. Probably the most famous marketing book by the most famous marketer in the world. Feels a bit dated in its references now, but the ideas are solid. I learnt the most powerful lesson of all from this book. I hate marketing. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I remember being wowed by this book as I read it, despite it being another font of woo-woo. Don't remember anything beyond that. Unfuck Yourself by Gary Bishop. Great book about changing the way you think and getting out of your own way. Another one that's hazy, and I seem to remember being disappointed that it took a right turn into woo-woo. Letting Go by David Hawkins. This book was amazing for the most part. It features practical exercises and explanations for how to tame your mind, but then goes full-on batshit woo-woo by the end. Hawkins' technique includes an arbitrary point scale for where you are on some continuum of enlightened thinking, and there's even an epilogue where he feels the need to explain why the technique won't ever work on people like atheists. Pro tip: you're claiming to have a technique that works, but have to put caveats on who it might work on, you don't have a solid technique. Becoming a Digital Nomad by Chris Back. More of a how-to and guidebook for living the nomad life, plenty of resources to help nomads and practical tips. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The godfather of self-help books. It was not what I was expecting. No woo-woo for a start, well, not much anyway, given it was written 80 years ago. I had heard of this book, who hasn't, and for whatever reason I thought it was a how to be a manipulative creep and force people to love you book. Not at all. It's basically be a good person. I agreed with everything in this book and sincerely wonder how the world can be in the state it is in if it's true about how many people have read this book and follow its teachings. Purple Cow by Seth Godin. I had heard good things about this book, and as I mentioned earlier, The Dip by Godin is great. This one felt half-baked and, well, duh. Basically, if you want to stand out, you need to be different. No shit, Sherlock. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Written by a screenwriter, this book is a rev up for writers, but it also works for entrepreneurs too. The intro by some other writer made me alarmed. It was basically an apology for the woo-woo that you'll find inside. However, the first half of the book is amazing. An exploration of procrastination. By the halfway point, I was telling friends they had to read it, and it was probably the best self-help book I'd read so far. Then thud. The last half is pure woo-woo. Procrastination is actually the devil and hard work is God, and yeesh. The Side Hustle by Nick Loper. Written by the dude who runs the Side Hustle podcast, this is another how-to guidebook with resources for people looking to get into side hustle. Very informative. And so, if you've been counting along at home, and if by some miracle my calculations were correct, that's 29 books. I'm about to finish another one, so almost 30 in 12 months. Phew!